I forgot to change the thumbnail. Ugh. I guess I could do it later, but still, I'm like, ugh. I feel a bit silly. Anyway, welcome back, everyone, to It Gets So Lonely Here. Professional streamer for realsies. Ugh. Wait, no, I did change the thumbnail. Okay. Anyway, how are we today? We are finishing It Gets So Lonely Here by Epi. I'm back. Oh, I just hit my mic. Welcome back. Alright, so yesterday we ended up having to stop prematurely because yours truly got tired after doing my silly little voices for 4.5 hours. I really did work really hard. But anyway, we continue now with more ASMR. Also, we're starting earlier. First time I could catch a stream in a while. Always lovely to hear your voice. Aw, thank you. You got EP? Yeah. Alright, load. So we left off here. Alright, so we'll back up a little bit because we stopped in like the middle of a scene. So anyway. All my servants come from the nearby village. Their tales are all the same, and so are their superstitions. I could do with a breath of fresh air. My last lady's maid told me I was too impetuous, but I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting a bit of adventure. Not that I've ever been afforded much of that. I've been shut up in here for so long. I hardly ever get the chance to talk to other girls my age. My last lady's maid was older than me, and so was the one before her, and the one before her. Some of the princess's fair Whoa! Yeah! Stonk went up approximately 20 bucks. Thank you for letting me know how much it is. Went up, had burgers with grandma. Have some burgers. Good to see you back. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you for your 10th super. Wow! Thank you. I hope you enjoy this stream. Some of the princess's fair mood seems to dissipate as she speaks. Her expression turning, by degrees, into something rather more pensive. I clicked on OBS to like the donation. I didn't even like it. There you go. But I haven't seen any of my old ladies' maids in a while. Or any of the other servants for that matter. They've all disappeared. Now, that is quite curious. How could a whole household full of servants simply disappear? That I don't know. This castle was full of servants once. My lady's maids and my undermaids and my scullery maids and my housekeeper and my cooks and a large retinue of retainers. They're all gone now, though. I think my ministers must have sent them away. don't know why they would have done that, though. They didn't explain it to me. But then again, they never explain anything to me. They still treat me like a little girl. It's so tiring. She said that her minister sent her servants away. What if her parents, the king and the queen, would they not be the ultimate authorities in the castle's hierarchy? They would, yes, if they were still alive. But they're not. They died a long time ago. I was raised for most of my life by my servants. Oh, you answer. And then you flush. You hadn't known. It's alright, you don't need to apologize. I'm just happy that I have you now. I was getting sick and tired of only having my dolls to speak to. Ugh, they aren't the best conversational partners. They are You can imagine so, yes. You doubt any doll, even one made by a talented artisan, with an intelligent face indistinguishable from a human's, would be very good at answering back. Are you American? Yes, I'm American. Oh no, they aren't! They're hopeless at it, really. They're so stony-lipped. You've no idea how much of a relief it is to see you. This castle's so big, and without my servants, it feels so very empty. It gets so lonely here. Now, that is an interesting turn of phrase. Roll credits. It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? You do not have much time to ponder this, however, because the princess is speaking anew, in that curiously conversational manner of hers which does not seem particularly princessy. Maybe she learned how to speak from her servants. That would explain why her consonants are so unrefined. Oh, but listen to me yammering on again. It's a bad habit. I really must put a stop to it. You're probably tired, dear one, from your travels. Oh, there it is, dear one. Would you like me to show you to your room? Yes, the princess announces before you can say anything in reply. I think I'll do just that. I might show you a bit around the castle first, though. Oh, it's like amazing here, and I wouldn't want you getting lost. You'll be staying here for quite some time, after all. Couldn't watch last night, so I'm a little behind. Glad I can listen to you while I'm at work. Aw, thank you for coming. The princess then hastens to take you on a tour of her home. Fortunately, she does not show all of the rooms in her abode, and neither does she offer overly long descriptions as to what the few rooms she does show you are used for. She does, however, pause by the kitchens, whereat she offers you some victuals. Victuals? Once the growling in your belly has been satisfied, the princess then resumes her journey. She leads you down a dark, twisting hallway, and up a series of equally dark, twisting steps until she arrives, at long last, before a door. The princess pushes this door aside summarily, thus permitting you entrance to a small, humble bedchamber. What is that? Chat, we're in the back rooms. This chamber is not half so opulent as the grand bedroom in which the princess resides, with its resplendent four-poster and its richly patterned wallpaper. This room's ceiling is not as high, and the singular bed shoved against the wall is thin and narrow. The walls are an unassuming beige, and the floor beneath your soles is of warped wood. There's a malodorous scent, too, which hangs in the air, one of disuse and general decay. You get the feeling that nobody has slept in this room for quite some time. That might explain why it feels so very cold in here. Though, if the princess's tour of her castle has taught you anything, is that it is cold in every room in her abode. Now here we are, the final stop of our tour. This'll be your room, dear one. I hope it's to your liking. Are you Texan? Yes. The princess, despite her exalted status, looks somewhat uneasy as she observes you, her eyes upturned like those of a loyal dog's. Is she concerned about your reaction to this room? Perhaps she's afraid that you'll turn your nose up at her kindness, which you would. For a princess, she is awfully eager to please. This unexpected contrast between the princess's lofty title and her ingratiating attitude makes you smile. The room is rather scanty, yes, when it comes to its contents, but it's more than passable. It has a roof and 4 walls, and though it is cold, you fancy you will feel warmer once you've slipped beneath the bed's sheets. The room is not quite so fancy as your dormitory at the Conservatoire, and neither is it so large, but it does have one glaring improvement over your previous lodgings. You will not be expected to share it with anybody else. There's only one bed in this room, and this bed is to belong to you. You think that the peace and the quiet will do you a world of good. You tell the princess as much, and she smiles. Oh, that's good! I was worried you wouldn't like it. I know it isn't much to look at, but it's one of the nicest servants' rooms we have in the castle. Most of the maids sleep beneath the roof in this teeny tiny room, which is all cramped. There's 10 beds up there, and they're so close together, there's barely any room to pass between them. I thought it was perfectly ghastly when I saw it last time I went up there. Not that I was supposed to be up there. It was a rainy day, and I couldn't go outdoors, so I was doing a bit of exploring. If the housekeeper had known I'd be skulking around, I don't think she would have been best pleased. Well, in any case, nobody sleeps up there anymore. The scullery maids are all gone now. I couldn't put you up there, though, in the attic with all those empty beds. I didn't think it'd be very cheery. You're not just a scullery maid, you're my lady's maid. That means you deserve good lodgings. It would be an insult to offer you any less than this. Now, it's getting late. You'll have to forgive me for rabbiting on. I've heard it's something I tend to do. It's a bad habit, one that's unbecoming for a lady. The housekeeper's warned me enough times. You reassure the princess to the contrary, smiling as you do so. You do not mind if she talks too much. That is better than not talking at all. Her affable nature makes it easier to spend time with her, manners be damned. You're always scolded too, back in the Conservatoire, for your behavior. You know full well how aggravating it can be to be upbraided, not for any particular misdemeanor, but for being yourself. Well, I'm glad you understand, the princess answers with a giggle. I really should be off, though. It's bad manners to keep you, especially when you look so sleepy. Get some rest. We can talk more tomorrow, if you don't mind my ceaseless prattle. I'm glad you seem to appreciate it, at least. Oh, I'm sure you'll get tired of it eventually. All my old maids did. The princess departs, and in her absence, you take a seat upon the bed. Your new bed. You cannot help but think that this is all happening very quickly. It does not seem like very long ago that you were still in the forest, running for your life amongst the tall, imposing trees with their gnarled, grasping branches. The forest might as well be a distant memory now, though. You're indoors, inside a castle, no less, and you have been given a room with which to sleep, and clothes that you might wear. It seems premature still to declare that you are out of the woods. In a metaphorical sense, I mean, but things could certainly be worse. You force yourself to stand, on legs which feel too weary to support you, and change into the nightclothes hanging in the wardrobe. The nightclothes do not fit you perfectly, but you're too tired to care about that. You're too tired to care about much of anything. You retreat to the bed and slide beneath its sheets. Then, you let your eyelids fall shut. You exhale. And, lulled by the breeze which blows outdoors, you fall asleep. You're so very tired. Your sleep is a deep, dark one. Darker, even, than the furthest abysses of the nighttime. Like the nighttime sky, however, which shimmers with stars, your sleep is not devoid of those prismatic fragments you humans call dreams. You humans. Though, in this case, I rather think your nocturnal imaginings are worth rather more than that. They are not dreams, are they? To which your slumbering mind is subjected? You know that they are not. Otherwise, your body will not be so very cold, not so clammy. The images that flicker beneath your closed eyelids, like the ghostly images in a phenakistoscope, were not conjured from within your mind. They were instead taken from your memories. You're not merely dreaming, you're remembering. You remember the girls who slept in your dormitory, and how they always hastened to use the shower first, though you were last for breakfast. You remember how, when you finally did arrive at the dining hall, the most desirable morsels had already been snuffled up by the girls who got there earlier. You struggled too to find a seat, once you finally did get your hands on some food, because nobody ever wanted to sit with you. The other girls all acted like you were a leper, save for when they wanted favors. They never asked for these favors, mind, for why would they? To them, your father's prestige did not matter. They were all wealthy ladies too, many of them wealthier than you. When everybody has the airs and graces of a princess, how is anybody supposed to stand out? You stood out the least in your class, perhaps because you were one of the smallest, the frailest, the sickliest, who always came down with colds in the winter. Your poor health did not stop the other girls from treating you as a servant, though, when they remembered that you existed, of course. It was your lot in life, as you dwelt within the stone walls of the conservatoire, to carry school bags across the field like a pack mule. Then, come the evenings, the girls in your dormitory had you sewing on missing buttons and ironing out the creases and wrinkles in their uniforms. If there was an odd job that needed performing, you would always be asked. But these girls did not ask you. That would have been too civilized. They ordered you instead. And as they ordered you, they laughed at you. They laughed, and they laughed, and they laughed. The laughter hurt, but it hurt considerably less than the kicks did, and the slaps and the pinches. Once, during an embroidery lesson, one of your classmates had an accident with her sewing scissors. She stumbled, or at least, she pretended to, and before you knew it, the silvery blades of those scissors were embedded in your left palm. This happened quite some time ago, when you were even littler than you are now, but you can still remember it. It hurt a lot. The scissors were sharp, and they perforated your skin. Not all the way down to the bone, but enough to bleed. Oh, so we're gonna get stabbed in this route. Lovely. Your wound bled bright red, like strawberry jam, all over your embroidery. Then, when your professor saw it, she shrieked. Her face turned as pale as whey, and she looked for a few moments as though she might faint, though you were the one who was in pain. Your professor looked at your face. She could not bear to look at your hand, then demanded to know why you could not be more careful. Her tone had been an accusatory one, almost as if you'd stabbed yourself in the hand with your scissors to goad her. The pain in your hand hurt, but the giggles of your persecutors hurt all the more. They never were punished for that. Perhaps your professor did not care enough to punish them. Perhaps she, like everybody else, thought it was all your fault. The wound, when all was said and done, was not too deep. It didn't even need any stitches. It healed well enough in time on its own, though it still left a scar. A white, raised thing, like a crescent moon. You still have that scar. You do not know how much blood you lost. It seemed like a lot back in the classroom. You could smell it in the air, sharp as iron. But it couldn't have been that much, evidently. If your wound had been more serious, perhaps your professor might have cared. Perhaps your classmates, too, would have felt some modicum of guilt over what they did. But this seems very unlikely. You know that your blood meant nothing to your classmates. Why should it? If you meant next to nothing, then the blood in your veins, if such a thing is possible, was even more consequential. So we're getting stabbed. Cool. British route. I think all of the routes have been British. I don't really know what a countryside Brit sounds like. Be Cockney? Oh my god, I just got here. Hi, welcome in. You feel disoriented when you wake, at long last with the rising of the sun. That's city British. Pour more pep in your voice. You do not remember what you dreamt, but you do not think that your dreams were of a particularly pleasant nature. If they were, your heart would not be hammering so. Ill at ease, you glance around. Oh, the room looks not that bad in the light. I still don't know what this thing is, though. You're lying in a narrow bed in an unremarkable room, one with dull beige walls and a warped wooden floor. Where exactly are you? This does not look like your dormitory in the conservatoire, not unless it's shrunk threefold overnight. Your brow furrows as you attempt to recall the events of the night prior, until with a gasp, It all clicks into place. You remember now. You were running through the woods, trying to escape from... You shudder. Do not want to think of what it is you were trying to escape from. You presume that you must have given your hunter the slip, though, because you're still in one piece. But one piece. Awake and alert enough to face the dawning of a new morning. You still have all of your limbs, and your facial features appear to be in the correct configuration. That's more than enough to be getting along with. You look to the foot of your bed, then blink, bemused at your discovery. You can see, lying upon the sheets, a garment. 2 garments, actually, of black and white, folded into a neat white square. What could that be? A maid's outfit? If so, it would not be too surprising. You can now recall your visit with the princess the night prior, and her assertions that you must be her lady's maid. Well, if that is the role she wants you to assume, then you have no qualms with it. Oh man. I know she's an actual princess, so it's not roleplay, but like... It's far preferable to the other role you played last night, that of a startled quarry, running from its pursuer. You press your fingers against the humble maid's attire. It feels surprisingly soft to the touch, not coarse like you expected. Ah, the mark of true Yuri, the maid outfit, for real. I actually, while I was trying to decide what to stream yesterday, I was looking at Ebby's stuff because I remembered, you know, Ebby publishes pretty much exclusively gay stories. Like, it's either all, like, MM or FF, or, I guess, Yaoi and Yuri. And, I was looking, one of the ones that I was considering was a game called Blackberry Honey, which is a Victorian maid Yuri game. It's a very wholesome one. But I was looking at the word count and it's like 80k or something, which is, woof, that's a lot. This game is 50k for reference. And it takes me, I don't know, I think I get through about somewhere around like, maybe around 7,000 words every hour. But anyway, I was just like, ooh, two girlies being cute and wholesome for a very long time. I want to play it, but I don't know if I could do it on stream. That's a lot of words. This one's 50k, so. These clothes are rather fine. Did the princess put them there? If so, that's all the more reason to wear them. You're not churlish enough to deny her hospitality. You rise from your new bed, then undress yourself, unbuttoning the front of your plain white nightgown and setting it aside. This task accomplished, you then clad yourself in your new attire. Black, white, and eminently sensible. You feel very far away from the girl that you once were. Your face might be the same as always, but something within you seems to have changed. You're no longer a student, not as long as you mean to reside within the princess's castle. You would far rather be her servant. Assured of your newfound identity, you retreat from your chamber, then make your way to your mistress's bedroom. Jesus! Woo! Oh, the Yuri's strong here. Mistress. Woo! The castle is a large one, with many, many rooms and many, many hallways to connect them, and for a brief while, you find yourself horrendously lost. You cannot remember where the princess's bedroom is. Getting a little familiar, are we? Good lord! Haven't tuned in a while. Hi, welcome in. You're beginning to feel rather disoriented when, to your relief, your eyes snag upon a stairwell which looks rather familiar. Could this be the way? You ascend these steps, your footfalls cushioned by the plush carpet which lines them, then find your way down the very same hall you traversed the night prior. If your memory does not fail you, then the princess's bedroom ought to be... Yes, it's here. You rap upon the door but receive nothing in the way of a response. Is the princess still abed? You wonder briefly whether you oughtn't wait until she's risen of her own accord. But no. The sun is high in the sky. What happened to the mermaid? She killed us. We're on a different route now. Are we still being hunted? I think? Wow. The sun is high in the sky and it would seem a shame to let the princess sleep through the day. Is this game essentially just a slideshow? Nah, it's called a visual novel. You ought instead to rouse her. That seems like the sort of duty a lady's maid should attend to. You enter the princess's bedroom and glance about. Her room looks much the same as you remember from the night prior, though the ceiling seems even higher when viewed in the wan morning's light. You can see now that there are fewer shadows to impede your view. How very opulent your young mistress's abode is. Young mistress! Her armoire is large and imposing, as is the grate in which you will be expected to keep a fire lit during the nights. The princess herself, meanwhile, is curled on her side beneath the sheets, looking rather less grandiose than her title would suggest. She's attired in a nightgown, adorned with frills, and her hair is split across her pillow like spilled gold. And her slender arms, meanwhile, held to her chest is a doll, the very same one she was cassetting last night. You suppose this doll must be your favorite. Idly, you wonder what the doll's name is, though you do not suppose it matters all that much. It is time to wake your mistress. You call out to the princess, but she's largely unresponsive. Her eyelashes are still sewn tightly shut, and her lips pursed in slumber. You purse your lips too and sigh. Well, nobody ever said your job would be easy.
We took to this real fast.
Once again, you call to the princess, and this time she replies. Her response is not a favorable one, however. She sighs, then turns away from you, her doll clutched to her chest. Give me a little longer. The princess sounds so enfeebled, but you do not take pity on her. If you've learned anything from the conservatoire, save for knowledge pertaining to the respiratory tracts of fish, it is that one must be cruel to be kind. You do not think this adage was practiced with any great success in the conservatoire, but perhaps it will have more of an impact upon the princess. You tell her once again to wake up, more sternly this time. You will not let her sleep, for she has slept long enough already. It is very slovenly, really, to still be abed at such an hour. Oh, beaded the princess sighs. Alright, I can see that I can't twist you around my little finger.
Cute.
I'm up. You don't need to nag me. Once you've roused the princess from her bed and you've put her doll to one side, you set upon her toilette. You aid the princess in the brushing of her hair, a chore to which she submits willingly, like a cat might allow its fur to be brushed. You allow yourself to ponder as you run the bristles of the princess's brush through her hair, how wonderfully soft it feels against her skin. Your skin, rather.
Friend-shaped. For real.
But a curious query from the princess. Are you alright, dear one? Brings you back to your senses. You were rather lost in thought there. Look lively now. You wouldn't want the princess to catch wind of your salacious thoughts, would you? I thought that you learnt your lesson about that already. Suitably chastened, you finish with the princess's hair, then set the brush aside. Now that the princess's tresses have been taken care of, you must start on her attire. The princess remains seated upon the edge of her bed, looking up at you askance. She does not have to ask you to avert your eyes. She does not ask you to avert your eyes, and nor does she make any motion of divesting herself of her nightgown. It really does seem as though she expects you to undertake this task on your own. Is that all right? You ask the princess as much. You would not wish to impinge upon her modesty, but she only laughs. Yes, that's all right. It's what you're supposed to do if you're to be my lady's maid. I'm used to being dressed and undressed. I'm not a bit squeamish about it. She might not be squeamish about it, but you are. You've never seen a naked woman before, excepting yourself. Even then, however, you've always dressed and undressed furtively, not wanting to examine your body for longer than is strictly necessary. You've never much liked the way that you look. You make a few more mumbled objections, but the princess sweeps them to one side easily. It's alright. I might be a princess, but we're both people underneath all of our clothes. I doubt we look much different. You're not sure about that. You've not yet seen the princess unadorned, but you already know, to look at her face, that you are different. She is much, much prettier than you are. But she's waiting, and you do not wish to keep her any longer. You steady your nerves. Then you reach out with trembling hands, and you begin to undo the buttons which run down the front of the princess's nightgown. You work as quickly as you are able, which, given how badly your hands are shaking, is not very. You fumble with a couple of the buttons, flinching as you do so. The princess, however, seems blissfully unaware of what it is exactly you're doing, or not doing, for your fingers have begun to seize up with the front of her nightgown. She's not even looking at you. Instead, her gaze is directed beyond your shoulder to the windowsill and the sky beyond it. It isn't particularly sunny, but I don't think it's too cold outside. Going for a walk might not be a bad idea. What do you think, dear one? You think that you would like to finish undressing the princess as soon as possible, so you can make some progress on dressing her again. The sight of all this exposed skin is bad for your heart. Fortunately, you're able to make quick work of the princess's nightgown, despite your initial mishaps, spurred on perhaps by your anxiety. You bid the princess to stand, which she does, and neatly she steps out of her nightgown, her motions once again as graceful and as fluid as a dancer's. This task completed, you search worriedly for the princess's red dress. Where is it? Oh, you cannot find it. Sweat begins to prickle on the back of your neck. Your palms, meanwhile, feel uncomfortably clammy. The moments pass awkwardly, uneasily, as you search. The princess standing there all the while, as naked as the day she was born. Oof! Why did you not find her day dress before you stripped her of her night one? What a fool you are! The princess, noting your panic, giggles, then says, "Are you looking for my dress?" "Yes," you reply, your face flushed. "That is what you were doing." "I thought so. I did wonder before you started undressing me why you'd not asked where it was. Maybe it slipped your mind?" It had slipped your mind, yes, to your shame. You were too busy trying not to fixate upon the princess's bared skin to think about how best to conceal it. "My dress is in my armoire," the princess says, glancing over to the aforementioned piece of furniture. That armoire of hers is an intricately carved wooden structure, large enough, or so you estimate, to fit inside it enough dresses to attire a whole ballroom's worth of princesses. "I'd like to wear the red one. It's my favorite. Would you be a dear and fetch it for me? I don't want to rush you, but it is rather cold in here, especially when I'm still naked." She raises a good point. You turn away from the princess and make your way to her armoire. Once there, you open the wooden doors and peruse the clothes hanging within. It is just as you expected. Inside that wardrobe lies numerous dresses, all of them finely sewn and decorated with no shortage of ribbons, lace, and iridescent pearls. You find the princess's red dress soon enough, then hurry to her side. With your spoils in hand, you hurry to dress her, concealing, once again, the princess's pale skin beneath layers upon layers of soft red velvet. She's easier to look at now, you think, with her skin concealed. That might have been the most nerve-wracking task you've ever had to accomplish, even more so than your perilous escape through the foggy forest. Why, it seems a small miracle you can still remember how to breathe. "Ah, that's much better! Thank you, dear one, for your help. You've not been here for a full day, but I already wonder what I'd do without you." Shyly, you assure the princess that you did nothing, really. Nothing beyond your job. You did not do anything incredible. And in any case, being complimented by somebody so pretty is embarrassing. "Aw, don't be like that. I want to compliment you. Why shouldn't I when you've been so helpful? It'd be rude not to, and anyway, I think you're very pretty too." Oh my. Your face flushes from this, more deeply than ever before. You ought to count yourself lucky, really, what with all of this excessive blushing, that the princess does not seem to possess any vampiristic tendencies. Are you sure? You see that fang? You're making yourself quite the easy target. "Now," the princess declares, "why don't we go for a walk? It's a nice enough day, and I get so very bored of being cooped up inside." You can't think of any particular objections to raise to this remark, and you think that the princess might have a point. The castle, though expansive, is somewhat stifling. The walls are so very thick that they put you in mind of a crypt. With your acquiescence assured, the princess quits her chamber, her posture elegant and her gait unhurried. She seems not to walk, as she navigates her way through the seemingly endless hallways of her home, but to float like a cloud. The hem of her dress swishes around her legs, and her hair shifts like a shroud. The castle's courtyard, meanwhile, is sadly lacking in comparison to the princess's beauty. The courtyard is fenced in by the castle's walls, which look, in the stark midday light, tall and imposing, faceless soldiers standing sentinel. Though the sun is out, it is not particularly bright, and neither is it particularly warm. The courtyard itself, meanwhile, is in a state of disarray. The flower beds are in shambles, all overgrown with weeds. It's all rather depressing. The princess's castle might be grand in scale, but the courtyard itself is simple, hemmed in to a claustrophobic degree, like a coffin. The princess, however, seems not to share your dolorous mood. She instead looks elated by her newfound surroundings, her smile unwavering. She gambols about like a lamb, flitting hither and thither as she examines the weed-infested flower beds. Her frolicking comes to a cease, however, by a bush. One is full of bright red roses.
Oh, how very pretty! Do you not think they are gorgeous, dear one?
The flowers are not too disappointing, you suppose. They make for a fine spectacle, in fact. A welcome splash of color when contrasted with the dullness and the drabness which permeates the rest of the courtyard. Though the other flowers in their beds are wilted, withered things, it is not so for these roses. They are rich, bright red, just like blood. Their heads so full they seem to almost droop beneath the weight of their own engorged petals. They're pretty, in a sense, but there's something unsettling about them too. Something that's almost obscene. How did those roses become so very red? What has been sustaining them? Could it be possible that these roses have been draining the life from the other flowers, which are struggling to grow within this garden? It's a fanciful thought, but...
Oh, they're simply divine! Looking at these roses always lifts my spirits. They really are my most favorite flowers. I simply must pick some of them. Oh, perhaps I can use some of them to decorate my bedchamber. It could use a bit of color.
The princess reaches out so as to pluck one of these roses free from its resting place among its brethren. You watch her, your breath bated, anxious that this gesture might result in perforated flesh and bright red blood. But the princess is not as clumsy as you fear. Of course she's not. Who did you think she was? You? Rather than worrying about other people, you'd be better served if you worried more about yourself. The princess holds her newly pilfered rose to her nose and inhales, her eyelids falling shut as the flower's sweet scent washes over her. A few moments of silence pass. Then the princess begins to toy with the petals which adorn the flower's crown.
Now, let me see. I wonder what fate has in store for me. She loves me.
The princess plucks a petal from the flower's overburdened head.
She loves me not.
The princess continues with this childish incantation, all the while stripping her rose slowly and methodically of its petals. These petals flutter about the princess like bloody snow. The princess's voice, meanwhile, echoes throughout the courtyard, even more melodic than the strains of a pianola.
She loves me. She loves me not. She loves me. She loves me not.
The princess's fingers hover over the final petal, which crowns her nearly denuded flower. Then, with a triumphant smile, she declares,
"She loves me! I knew it!"
You watch the princess, amused by her girlish good cheer. The little mantra she's been reciting is one that you're familiar with. The girls at the conservatoire also used to engage in this little game. The younger ones, at least, who believed that a fairy tale prince would whisk them away. You might have participated in this game yourself when you were a child yourself, but you never pinned your hopes and dreams on a handsome prince. Your interest in princes has always been minimal. When it comes to fair princesses, though, well, that's a different matter altogether, isn't it? Pleasantly, you ask the princess whose love it is she wishes to court, a query which makes the princess giggle.
Oh, dear one, who else would I be thinking of? Naturally, I was thinking of you.
Naturally. She says it so easily, as though you ought to have suspected as much.
And indeed, part of you did. You wanted to believe, yet part of you was afraid to. You did not want to be arrogant enough to assume that the princess might care for your affections. You begin to blush, your cheeks almost as red as the roses, while the princess laughs. She laughs, and she laughs, and she laughs, her voice clear and sweet like a nightingale's song, as though you're the funniest thing she's ever seen. You never liked being laughed at when you dwelt within the walls of the conservatoire, but it's different with her. You've not known her for all that long, but you're already entranced by her, ensnared. She has you wrapped around her little finger.
Oh my!
The princess's laughter tapers off into a series of giggles as, smiling, she wipes her eyes with the back of her hand.
That was quite the amusing diversion, but I've just had an idea!
You look at the princess curiously. What idea?
You can't tell?
You cannot even begin to guess.
I just thought that all this watching must be boring you,
The princess says, tossing the rose strip stem carelessly to the ground.
You should give it a try. Please do, it'll be fun.
The princess retrieves a second red rose from the bushes, deftly snapping it between her fingers and offers it to you.
I want to see what fate has in store for you, too.
You smile at the princess, touched by her enthusiasm.
We all know where this is going.
Indulging in childish games like this might not be the best use of your time, but the princess looks so very determined you would not wish to hurt her. What could be the harm, really, in consenting? The only real casualty of this game will be one singular rose, the rose that the princess is holding towards you. You reach out, meaning to accept the princess's offering, but...
Oh no!
You're clumsy, and you seize the stem of the rose with a touch too much strength. The head of the rose may be pretty, but there's more to a rose than its bright red flowers. Roses have thorns too, a fact you are now being painfully reminded of. Pain flares through your finger and you gasp.
Honestly, y'all? Yeah, Ink, I was thinking the same thing.
You take a step back, the hem of your skirt swishing around your ankles. Your fingers stinging, and so are your eyes. You ought to have been more careful. Why were you so stupid?
Oh, you poor dear, you're bleeding!
The princess exclaims, alarmed. Then she frowns.
Oh, this is all my fault. If I'd not suggested this silly game, this never would have happened. Please, let me take care of you.
And how is she going to do that? Perhaps she means to take a handkerchief from her pocket with which she might staunch your wound. Princesses tend to carry handkerchiefs around with them, don't they? Silken ones. How else would they give brave knights tokens of their gratitude, once these aforementioned knights have successfully slain dragons? Princesses can hardly dispense kisses as favors. It's simply not done. That's what you've always thought, but...
Please, hold still. This might sting a little bit.
This princess is anything but ordinary. Rather than take a handkerchief out of her pocket, she instead encloses her white, slender fingers around your hand. Carefully, as though she's handling a precious object, she raises your hand. Her eyes are fixed, all the while, on the beads of startlingly crimson blood which are oozing luridly from your wound. She licks her lower lip. Then she dips her head.
Wow. Oh my god, the maid outfit. Oof, I'm sorry, I'm just kind of like taking this in. Oof.
She parts her mouth, and with a soft sigh which borders on the sensuous, she slips your injured digit between her teeth. So much for princesses not dispensing kisses as tokens of appreciation. This might not be a conventional kiss, but it feels intimate regardless, almost startlingly so. The princess's lips, which are as red as any rose, are enclosed around your index finger. You can feel the warmth of the princess's mouth about your skin, and the wetness of it. These sensations make your whole body quake. You did not expect this. Tremulously, in a voice which wavers, you ask the princess what it is she is doing.
I haven't seen blood drinking since Mamiya. Man, I miss Mamiya.
Oh? The princess glances up at you, her mouth still enclosed around your finger. Didn't I tell you? I'm trying to stop the bleeding. Yes, you gathered as much, but... Is there a problem? Oh, I'm not making you uncomfortable. I'm not making you uncomfortable, am I? It is not, you say, that she's making you uncomfortable, per se, but this is rather awkward. You did not expect it, that is all. And is she not worried that this is unhygienic? Unhygienic? The princess blinks. She's the very picture of innocence, which is funny, really, given your finger still nestled against her tongue. I don't know what you mean by that exactly, but I've heard this is the best way to take care of cuts. My nursemaid used to do this for me when I was a child. It's what you're supposed to do. And you ask, your voice catching in your throat, did her nursemaid keep staunching her wounds with her mouth when she grew older? Well, no, but my nursemaid was dismissed when I was 8 years old. That's the normal way of things. I had my lady's maids to look after me then. How very interesting. And did they ever clean her wounds like this? No, the princess says, mischievously. Because I'm not clumsy enough to cut myself, silly. Now that was quite the sharp retort.
I just realized that her nails are painted. Oof.
You did not expect it. Your face turns even redder if such a thing is possible, though this might perhaps be to your benefit. With some luck, all of your blood will flow to your face rather than to your finger, and your bleeding will stop. Has it stopped? Your injury was not a deep one. There should be no need for the princess to keep on suckling, but she still is.
Suckling! Ooh.
You're not accustomed to intimacy of this nature. It's making your heart flutter. If the princess knew what her mouth was doing to you, you're sure she would not be so very familiar. You feel quietly, crushingly confident that she would scorn you for your feelings and deem them unnatural. It would not be the first time. At this point, you should be used to rejection. It still stings, though. It stings much, much more than any thorn on any rose ever could.
Alright, y'all. I'm gonna be right back. Hold on, I'll make a save. I'll go to the title screen just so y'all have something nice to listen to. Be right back. I return with tea. I love the music. It reminds me of a melancholy storybook. I'm still insane over Yuzuki's music. It slaps. Alright. Welcome back. Thank you. The days pass, following your misadventures in the Rose Garden, in a relaxed, unhurried sort of manner. Give me the tea?
No.
Your mad dash through the forest is beginning to feel like a distant memory. So much so, you can scarcely recall the raw, naked fear you once felt as you fled for your life. There's no running to be had while you are working for the princess. You would have nowhere else to run. And, in any event, there's no longer any reason to run. The shadows which once tormented you have, at long last, begun to recede. Sounds like I'm bitterly staring at the Celeste menu after a botched run. You can scarcely recall, as you lay down in your bed, the petty cruelties you were subjected to by your classmates at the conservatoire. They no longer matter. Your attention is focused, not upon yourself, but upon the princess. The more time you expend with her, the more you come to care for her. You've become quite besotted with her, but you are yet to realize it. Well, I never. How very ignorant can one girl be of her own feelings? The princess is not half so ignorant as you are, though, despite having spent her whole life within the palace's walls. The weight of her own feelings are not unknown to her, and during one stormy night, she chooses to make them known to you. Is she gonna straight up confess to us? No way. You're in the princess's chambers later, perhaps than you ought to be. Later than is strictly appropriate. It is dark outside, and there's little save the light of the moon to alleviate it. That and the fire which crackles in the grate. You've only just finished stoking that very fire, and now you rise. It is what it is. Welcome to Magician's Apprentice! Thank you for the channel membership! That's an awesome name. You look to the princess, who is lying in her bed, and you bid her good night, as you have many nights past. With a neat curtsy you turn to leave, but the princess's plaintive voice gives you pause. Wait, dear one, do not go. Not just yet. It is what it is. Complete this phrase. It is blank it is. What is what? Ah, no. It is how it is. Well, it is what it is. It isn't. The princess looks squishy. She is squishy. I love her, I love those big, puffy sleeves. Perplexed, you pause, then look back at the princess. Though she's smiling, her expression is unusually wan. Is she alright? Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. It's just nights like this, you know, which make me feel a little out of sorts. And what, you ask, does she mean by that? Only that it is very cold and very dark. And it is very windy, besides. I'm afraid there'll be a storm later. It was awfully cloudy earlier when we went out for our walk. The princess was not mistaken about that. The sky, when the pair of you promenaded about the gardens earlier, was grey and steely, the wind bitingly cold. You can hear the wind rattling mournfully against the panes in the princess's bedchamber. The princess's castle is built of stone, and it is well fortified, but even with the fire, it is rather cold. You do not like to think of how much chillier by comparison it will be in your humble bedchamber, which is not fortunate enough to have its own fireplace. I thought it did. It might sound childish, but I've always found it hard to sleep on stormy nights like this. They make me feel uncomfortable. You look at the princess with no small degree of sympathy. No longer clad in her bright red dress, she looks oddly, uncommonly vulnerable. Will she really be alright? All alone in her oversized bed, in her high-ceilinged bedchamber. You know it's silly of you to contemplate such a query. Why would she not be alright? There's nobody in the castle to hurt her. But still, you fret for her. As her lady's maid, it is your job to fret for her. You would never want your mistress to feel unhappy. You ask the princess what it is she would have you do, and the princess perks up at this, pleased perhaps that you're taking the initiative.
I wouldn't like to take up too much of your time when it is so very late. But would you mind sitting with me a while longer and reading to me? Provided that you can, of course.
This is a fair enough question, but your pride bristles regardless. Hastily, you reassure the princess that yes, of course you could read. You were a poor student in many aspects at the conservatoire, but you had something of a gift when it came to the literary arts. Reading books is all you've ever been any good at.
Oh, I see. I suppose I should have known. You're so incredible, I sometimes wonder if there's anything you can't do.
The princess's high praises make you flush. Awkwardly, you look away. Being able to read, you reassure her, is not such a great feat.
Perhaps it isn't where you hail from, but it is here. Very few of my old servants could read, and they certainly couldn't read the books that I like.
This piques your interest. Intrigued, you ask the princess what books exactly she likes.
Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm fond of fairy tales, you see. Old ones, from centuries past. I have a collection of them here,
The princess says, indicating a book on her bedside table, as thick as a mortuary slab.
The book is old, though, and the bindings are weak, the pages brittle, the writing woefully old-fashioned. I didn't trust any of my past servants with that book, but I think you would do a good job breathing life into those old stories. Would you mind reading to me for just a brief while? Please, dear one, oh please!
The princess's request seems a simple one expressed sweetly. So much so, you see no reason to refuse her. You take a seat beside the princess, upon her luxurious bed, which sinks beneath your weight. Then you retrieve the leather-bound book which is resting upon her bedside table and spread it open. The pages of the book are very brittle, like the princess said, and the bindings of the book are loose. You can feel, in the heft of the book's manifold pages, the weight of the ages concealed within it. How old is this book? Perhaps it's as old as the castle in which it resides. It is with a quiet voice, hesitant at first, that you begin to read to the princess, a tale of courtly love, which culminates in a lavish wedding ceremony. All the while, as you read, the princess listens to you, enraptured, hanging, or so it seems, upon your every word. Once you reach the final phrase embossed upon the pages of the sage tomb, and they lived happily ever after, the princess sighs, as though this tale has touched her very soul.
Would that there was a handsome prince to marry me, she says somberly. Or better yet, a beautiful princess. At this point, I think I'd even settle for a lowly scullery maid.
You blush at this idle remark and mumble softly that this would not be proper. The storm outside is still squalling, and you've never been one to raise your voice. You do not expect, therefore, that the princess will overhear you, but she does. She observes you, her head resting against her pillows, and says,
And what would be the problem with that, As my maid, shouldn't my happiness come before any silly ideas of propriety?
Well, of course, you reply, but for a princess to marry a scullery maid.
You're still hung up about that? The princess titters. Don't pay it too much heed. I'm just talking to myself.
As if anything like that would ever happen,
when there's no priest around who'd officiate it.
You think there are greater issues with the princess's plan than the lack of a priest, though she does present a good point. The castle is an empty one. Even if the princess were to find somebody that she loves, there would be nobody to make such a wedding official. You cannot help but feel like you've avoided a good deal of nuisance. But by the same token, do you not feel a touch disappointed? Well, never mind.
That was a nice story, the princess says. But I'm not sleepy yet, and it's still storming outside. Won't you read me one more?
You would not mind, you reply, but it is getting late. You really ought to return to your own chamber.
I know, but can't you find it in your heart to read one story to me? Just one? You can choose a short one, I won't complain.
You have some doubts about that, but as before, you cannot resist the princess's demands. It is not, you think, because she's a princess, though that is of course a part of it, but because she is... radiant. You would not, you think, as you turn to the next story recounted in this aged compendium, want to upset her. You'd rather cut out your own tongue. You read another story to the princess, which is of a similar vein to the last. Impossible adventures culminating, at their close, in a happy marriage. This tale delights the princess just as much as the tale you read prior, and she begs for another, then another. One bedroom story soon becomes 5, and even then, when the candles which flicker on the princess's bedside are close to guttering out, the princess is not satisfied. Like a grasping, greedy child, she has never heard of moderation. When she wants something, she seeks to glut herself with it, her only request that of more. If she were less comely, perhaps her inability to adhere to the word no would be seen as a character defect. The princess is very comely, however, and so, when she makes her next request, you almost agree offhand, without considering the ramifications.
I think I could go to sleep now, but the storm is still raging. I feel lonely on my own in this big empty bed. So... I know!
The princess's eyes light up like the night sky in a thunderstorm. Not a thunderstorm.
Why don't you sleep with me?
You stare at the princess, your eyes wide as goose eggs.
I'm thinking about her, like, saying that the narrator basically saying that, like, oh, this princess, oh, I spilled my tea! Hold on, where did I put my tissues? Okay, it didn't get on the chair. Oh, I was so nervous. But anyway, the narrator basically saying that, like, oh yeah, this girl is insatiable. It's like, oof, oof. Oh, when she kills us, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be possessive.
Slowly, you blink. Then, just as slowly, you bid her to repeat herself?
Didn't you hear me?
The princess giggles.
Maybe you've been so busy cleaning up after me, you've neglected to clean out your own ears. I said, dear one, would you like to sleep with me?
If that is the question she truly means to ask, then it's easy enough to answer. Of course you'd like to sleep with her. It would be an honor. But would it really be alright for you to accept such an invitation? It must be a gross breach of protocol, surely, for a lowly domestic such as yourself to share a bed with a princess. You sit upon the princess's bedside, fretting, while she observes with wide, beseeching eyes. She's waiting.
Well, what's the matter, dear one? Why do you tarry so? Could it be...
The princess's lower lip begins to tremble. Don't you want to lie with me after all? The sorrow present in the princess's voice and in her face makes you feel awfully guilty. Hurriedly, you console her. You tell her in no uncertain terms that if she truly wishes to partake in your company, then you have no qualms with it. Why would you?
Okay, game, simmer down or we'll get demonetized.
Well then, don't just stand there dilly-dallying, silly. Come and join me, come!
And that is what you do, after returning briefly to your own chamber to change into your nightgown. Once dressed, you waste no time in returning to your impetuous princess's side.
Succubuses also have sharp teeth. Ooh, is that what the elegant elements of like all of these, like these teeth are there in like her regular model as well? Or not model,
Sprite.
She's already lying in her glorious four-poster bed, awaiting your return, as though you're a knight-errant gone away to slay some wicked dragon. The princess giggles when she sees you. In your haste to change, you've made a hash of the buttons, and she bids you to come closer.
Let me fix that for you, silly.
Oh no, you say. I couldn't possibly let you do that. I am but a servant, after all. Should it not be your job to dress her?
Maybe so,
The princess says.
but I don't mind a bit of role reversal. It makes things more fun.
oh my god. This is so insane. You try. Yeah, I did break. I just had to like sit back and be like, huh?
You try a few more refutations, but in vain. The princess summarily discards all of them. Quite at the princess's mercy, she might be even more stubborn than you are. You capitulate to her demands. You let the princess unbutton the front of your nightdress, then rebutton them, so the fabric of your plain gown is drawn shut. Satisfied with her handiwork, she has very elegant hands. The princess draws back and pats the mattress beside her.
Now, come in. It must be horribly cold out there, but these sheets are warm.
Coyly, the princess smiles.
And so am I.
You feel warm yourself as you slide into bed beside the princess. Your face is as red as the gown the princess so often wears, as red as the roses in the castle's grounds. All the while, your heart is fluttering. Does the princess know what an effect she's having on you? Surely she must. How could any woman be so blind?
There!
The princess explains, once your body is lying beside hers.
That's much better. Do you feel cozy now, dear one?
You swallow, and with a shaky voice, you reassure her. Yes, you are cozy. You are quite cozy indeed.
Very good. The storm might be raging outdoors, but it can't get us here. I know when I'm with you, I'll be safe. It's strange, but...
The princess reaches out, then takes your hand in hers, twining your fingers together like a chain.
when I'm with you, I feel so very light. It's as though nothing in the world can hurt me. You make me feel safe, so I want to make you feel safe too. I'll take very, very good care of you. I promise.
You return her smile with one of your own, touched by her thoughtfulness, though something about her promise does make you wonder, should it not be your job to look after her as a domestic?
In a way,
The princess replies after a pause.
but you've been taking good care of me already. Now I need to return the favor. As a princess, I'm supposed to look after my vassals. It's all part of the job description.
You were unaware that being a princess came with a job description. You thought the profession came with far fewer written responsibilities and far fewer forms to sign than, say, becoming a doctor or an astrophysicist or a mathematics professor. You tell the princess this sleepily and she laughs.
You do say some funny things, dear one. I think you must be tired. Rest your head. You've been working so hard. I think you deserve it.
Yes, you think. Only half conscious. You think you deserve it too. You've been working hard for a long time. I've been running for even longer. But now, at long last, you feel like you can let your fears go. Your eyelids begin to droop, your body beleaguered by a sudden, all-consuming fatigue. And in a quiet, understated sort of way, your consciousness is conveyed to Morpheus's kingdom.
Oh no, she's good. That's what I'm thinking.
Hmm?
Two girls sharing a bed, 5 feet apart. Cause, whew. Hold on, y'all. I'm taking a break to drink tea.
All right. Your sleep is a deep one, despite the storm which rages outdoors. The wind is
Give me the tea.
No! The wind is howling like a couple of wild cats, both locked in a vicious and bloodthirsty bout to the death, but you do not hear it. Swaddled by the warm blankets about you, and soothed by the princess's presence, you're immune from all the ills of the world. When you're with the princess, you feel safe, secure, and yes, you even feel loved.
I'm waiting for us to wake up to the thumbnail, y'all.
It is a pity, then, that these feelings do not last for very long.
Yep, here we go.
You know that something is wrong, catastrophically so, the moment you open your eyes. Your thoughts are hopelessly jumbled, but you're certain that when you fell asleep it was in a bed. A nice warm bed, no less, beneath soft, comfortable sheets. You're not lying in a bed right now, though. You're not, in fact, lying at all. You're standing, instead, against a cold, hard wall made of stone.
Oh, fun! Y'all, look at that. It's a maid dress. It's another maid dress. Oh, wow.
The curve of your back is pressed against the wall so intimately, you can feel its icy chill seeping through the fabric of your nightgown. Your feet, which are bare, are similarly pressed against cold, unfeeling stone.
Don't worry, she just walks.
They feel so frigid you cannot help but tremble. You're trembling so much you can feel your teeth chattering together. They sound like castanets.
Castanets.
The sound is almost jaunty as it echoes through your cell, for that is, indeed, where you are. The princess's bedchamber, wherein you fell asleep, is a thing now of the past. You're standing, instead, you realize, with a sharp start, in the cell of some great underground dungeon. You swallow, and when you do, you can taste something bitter on your tongue. Your stomach is beginning to churn with anxiety. You feel like you're going to be sick, a feeling which wells up inside you to a staggering degree when you catch notice of the stench. You're not, you realize, the only one in the dungeon. There are others here. Others attired in the simple black and white outfits of servants, which look much like the dress that you once wore. The others who are with you, however, in this expansive cell, manacled to the walls, are in no fit state to speak to you, nor to tell you of their plights. They're all unfeeling, unseeing, unbreathing. They are all dead. You cannot approach these servants to check their pulses, for you yourself are restrained. But even if you could, there would be no point. There's no way any human could survive the wounds which have been inflicted upon these sad, slumped bodies. Over there, you see a woman slumped, the front of her once white apron stained with blackish blood. There's a gaping wound in her stomach, one through which her entrails have half escaped, in some sort of burgundy goop which might have once been pale pink. There's another woman slumped beside the first of a smaller stature. She's skinnier. Maybe she's not a woman after all, but an adolescent like yourself. She might even be younger. The girl's age, or lack of, did not preclude her attacker from inflicting upon her horrors. Alas, for her body is even more mutilated than the first. Her body is peppered with even more wheals, and her face has been half smashed in. Only one eye remains, staring fixedly at the wall opposite her, in the ruined remains of what was once her skull. Over there, you see a woman who is missing both her arms and her lower jaw. Over there, you see another who is missing her entire lower half. Where have her legs gone? You have no idea. The injuries inflicted upon these bodies are ghastly, but their advanced decay is enough to turn your stomach. You know not how long these carcasses have been lying down here, but they've begun to putrefy. You fear a similar fate might befall you, should you stay here. You need to escape. Fitfully, you struggle against the manacles which bind you, but alas, it's no use. You cannot free yourself from the walls. Your restraints are much too strong, and you are much too weak. Panic rises up in your throat, cold and icy, while terror seizes your heart, this too glacial. It's obvious that escape is impossible, but still you squirm and writhe like a rat caught in a firestorm. There's little point, however, to your struggles. You succeed in nothing as you attempt to free yourself, save making the steel manacles dig into your abused wrists more sharply than ever. You gasp. That hurts. Well, you would have known that wouldn't work. The very definition of insanity is, performing a said action over and over again, hoping for a different response. In that sense, perhaps one could argue optimism is not so very different from insanity. Now that is an interesting point to consider. Would you not agree? No, evidently not. You're still trying to escape, you foolish girl, as if that'll do you any good. The clangorous rattling of your steely restraints is rather starting to get on my nerves. You're making enough noise to raise the dead down there in your dark, dingy cell, and all your screaming is hardly helping matters. Wish that you'd cease this infernal racket, but I know you will not. Nothing I say could ever get through to you. Not that you've ever listened to me in the first place. Perhaps you'd listen to her, though. Is she not your kind, considerate mistress? Look now. She's come all this way into the dark depths of the castle's cold, inhospitable dungeon to see you. Is that not kind of her?
Oh, dear one!
The princess trills, entering the dungeon with a series of light, lilting steps.
It would seem like you've finally awoken. How are you? Based on all that infernal racket you've been making, it seemed like you have no shortage of energy.
Balefully, you turn your head, so as to meet the eyes of the princess. She's standing but a few paces away, beneath the roughly hewn stone arch which bids one entry, but rarely ever an exit, to the dungeons. The dungeons are dull and drab, but the princess is wearing her favorite red dress. It's so bright and brilliant that, for a few moments, it hurts you to look at her. Once, the red of the princess's outfit made you think of romance. Now, it makes you think of violence.
You must forgive me for leaving you down here for so long. That was unfair of me. I did think of waiting here with you, by your side until you awoke, but...
Once again, the princess giggles. A light, airy giggle, which does not at all suit the situation in which you found yourself.
A dungeon is not a fit place, after all, for a princess. It's horribly cold here and so very drab, and there's nowhere nice and soft to lay my head. I could have brought my pillows down from my bed, I suppose, and my blankets. But then they would have gotten dirty, and that would be a disaster. I need to be more careful. I won't have anybody left to clean up after my messes soon. Not when I've dispatched of you.
Once again, the princess laughs. Her laughter is light and lilting, like the chiming of a silvery bell, but it does little to alleviate your concern. If anything, it makes you feel even more alarmed. Did she say she meant to dispatch of you?
Yes, that's right. Could you not tell? I thought you might have figured that out already after waking up in a dungeon, silly.
Still smiling, the princess takes another step towards you. Would that you could. You would cringe away from her, but you cannot. You are completely powerless. The princess reaches out and places a hand upon your cheek. Her skin is very white, and though her touch is cool, it is less so than the frigid air in the dungeon. Though your body is aching, the princess's touch is gentle, and you find yourself leaning into it subconsciously. You wish she would keep holding you. You wish she would keep touching you. You luxuriate in her kindness as best you can, but though the princess's caresses are tender, your circumstances rather undermine them. How can you relax like this?
You're such a good girl,
the princess says, in a cajoling sort of voice, as one might address a cat.
You've been so lovely to me while we've been together. I really couldn't ask for a better servant. I feel as though I've been spoiled.
Why then, you ask her, is she doing this? Improbable though it sounds, she must be the one who chained you up. There's nobody else in the castle who could have committed such a feat. Everybody else is dead.
Why, yes! How very astute of you! I was the one who orchestrated all of this, naturally.
Naturally, she says, as though her betrayal is a matter of course. Naturally. Why, you ask, is this so natural to her? What does she mean to do with you?
Only what I've done to all my other servants. I have experience with this sort of thing, so please don't worry. I'll take good care of you. And by take good care of, she means... naturally. I'll kill you.
There it is again. That word, which seems grossly inappropriate given all which has transpired. Naturally. There's nothing natural about this.
Do you not think so?
The princess examines you, her expression ponderous.
It's natural to me, even if it isn't natural to other people. This just feels right.
Imprisoning her servants in the dungeon and letting them die?
Yes, exactly. There's a bit more to it than that, though.
Oh, of course there is.
I like you, dear one,
the princess says, in a voice which sounds uncommonly serious.
You've been good to me, like I said, and kind.
For that, I will be eternally appreciative.
You've been so good to me, in fact, that simply being with you is not enough. Not anymore.
Your company can no longer content me.
I'm a greedy, selfish girl, you see?
The princess's smile widens into something sinister, her eyes flashing with a fiendish fervor you've never before witnessed.
And I don't want to feel you beside me. I want to feel you inside me.
Well, of all the things your charming captive could have said, you did not expect that. The princess, perhaps noticing your confusion, begins to giggle. A giggle even lighter than meringue and just as airy. It is just as inoffensive.
I can see that you don't understand, dear one, but you aren't the only one. My last lady's maid said that too.
Only, the princess sighs. A beleaguered woe-is-me sigh which makes her look even younger than the scant handful of years she truly possesses.
And the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. I thought that you, at least, might be able to appreciate my point of view, but, perhaps not. I don't think it should be too complicated to grasp, really. But maybe my way of looking at the world is a little bit unique. That's what my nurse always used to say, at least. When she still had the breath to speak, of course.
You look at the princess. Where else is there for you to look, really? Your eyes affixed to her face. She's still smiling, but there's something sinister about her smile. Or perhaps, in your anxious state, you're only imagining that there's something sinister about her smile. It's easy to see things which do not really exist when your surroundings are festooned in shadows. In actuality, however, the princess does not look any different to how she usually does. Neither is she acting any differently to the way she usually does. She's not changed. It's only your perspective of her that has changed. Tremulously, you ask the princess what she means. A question the princess is only too happy to answer.
It's simple, really, like I said.
You were wondering, weren't you, why there weren't any guards or any servants in the castle when you first arrived here? The question had crossed your mind, yes? You're sure that the princess said her minister sent them away, though. Was that a lie?
I wasn't being wholly truthful, no. I thought you'd be afraid of me if you knew what had actually happened, and I didn't want that. I wanted you to stay with me. My ministers didn't send anybody away because I don't have any ministers. I dispatched of them too.
Did she now? You suppose you ought not be surprised, but you still shudder regardless.
My ministers weren't very much fun, I'm afraid. They had a lot of ideas about what I should do and shouldn't do after my parents died.
The princess stares at you, her eyes wide like black holes, empty, yawning abysses.
So, I killed them. I killed my servants too, though I did a more thorough job with them than I did my ministers. I didn't care for my ministers, you see. They're all fusty old men, but I did love my servants. I loved my ladies' maids, and my undermaids, and my scullery maids, and my housekeeper, and my cooks, and my large retinue of retainers. They were like my family. They raised me in my parents' absence, and I adored them. They were so very dear to me that I had no real choice. I had to eat them. Does that follow?
Not logically, no. Why, you asked the princess, your voice trembling, would you eat the people that you love? It seems a poor way to repay them for their kindness.
Well, why wouldn't you eat the people that you love? I don't think there could be any greater way of showcasing one's gratitude. Unless you have any better ideas?
You weren't expecting the princess to turn the tables on you quite like this, and dumbfounded you stare at her. You know precious little about love yourself, so it's hard for you to form a convincing rebuttal, but you muster up a few token arguments. You tell the princess that eating people isn't very nice, and neither is it strictly legal. A better way to show your gratitude to your servants would be with increased wages or increased holidays. The princess listens to your arguments. Her expression astute, like a student poised to take notes in a very important lecture. Once you're finished, however, her concentration fails her. Her shoulders begin to shake, but it is not with remorse for what she's done. Instead, she's laughing.
Oh, dear one, that's very funny. But why should I care about the law? I'm a princess. One day I'll be the queen. I am the law.
That is a good point, but would eating people not turn her subjects against her?
What subjects? I'm no fool, you know, no matter how I might act, and I know what happens beyond the castle's walls. I know all about the plague. Once I might have had a populace to govern, but they're all gone now. I'm a princess in nothing but name only. A monarch without any subjects. Don't you think that's sad? I know I do. It's so woefully lonely.
If she feels lonely, then why has she been systematically slaughtering all of her domestics? It doesn't make a lick of sense.
Perhaps not to you.
Gently, the princess caresses your cheek.
But I shouldn't judge you too harshly. As much as I like you, dear one, you are a commoner. Perhaps you can't understand the intricacies of my thoughts.
Privately, you doubt that anybody would be able to understand the intricacies of the princess's thought process, largely because it's unreasonable. You do not say that, though. Instead, you ask her the only question you can think to ask, with your weary throat, which is sore from shouting. Why?
Why, you ask?
The princess blinks.
It's because I don't want you to leave me, of course. Everybody leaves sooner or later, whether they've pledged their allegiance to me or not. That's simply the way of the world. People are fickle and inconsistent, even to me, a monarch. That's why I decided to eat my servants. I had no choice, you see. It was the only way to ensure that they would never leave me. When you think about it, they should be grateful that I demeaned myself so to consume their flesh and blood. I am a magnanimous ruler, you see, and I treat all of my subjects equally. I love every single one of you. And naturally, I love you too. You've been awfully nice to me, and you're very pretty alongside it. If you were a plain ugly girl, perhaps I would not shower you with affection quite as intense as this, but you've captured my heart. I think you're lovely. So, I'll bestow upon you the highest honor I can conceive of. I want your body to mix with mine. Then we can stay together forever and ever.
The princess leans in. You can feel her soft, silken hair brushing against your cheeks. You can feel, too, the warmth of her breath as it ghosts against your skin. It is cold in the dungeon, but the princess's close proximity is, perverse though this might sound, something of a comfort. Her eyes are wide and her lips are so red. Her smile, meanwhile, is so sweet.
I've been doing my best to fulfill the role that fate has dictated for me, but really...
The princess exhales. Her eyes, which are boring into yours, are like two dark tarns. Finally, you think you can see, in the alarming lack of light, the lack of anything, in the princess's gaze, some degree of humanity.
It gets so lonely here.
But at this brief flicker of understanding, which passes beneath the pair of you, soon cut short. The princess dips her head. She parts her lips, which are as red as the petals for a carnivorous flower.
I noticed that each death might be an innuendo for, now that you mention it. Yeah, because, like, drowning, being buried, I guess suffocating could also go for it, and then eating. Wah!
You feel the princess's breath against your neck. It is warm in the icy chill of the dungeons, and you shudder from it. For a few moments,
I'm not following. I can't be too specific with the language, you know why.
For a few moments, you think that this overture of the princess's could be romantic in a way, but this, too, comes to a swift, merciless close. The princess's mouth is on your neck.
Oh my god.
The princess's teeth, sharp as needles, are in your flesh. The princess is draining your blood. She's supping on it in great, greedy gobbets, like a hungry animal, one who cannot truly comprehend the harm it is causing. Even as the princess sups from you, her arms twined around your waist, you find you cannot hate her. She's far too unworldly. You're sure, as your consciousness begins to fade, that the princess was being sincere when she spoke of her love for her past servants. This is simply the way the princess expresses this great love of hers, a love which is so very abundant it borders upon the monstrous. It is a love you never thought that you would ever experience. This love of the princess's eclipses anything you've ever known before. It eclipses sanity. It eclipses reason. It eclipses all notion you might once have had of right or wrong. The princess, as you know full well, does not care about such concepts. You've always possessed a stubborn core, nestled beneath your weak-willed exterior, but the princess is even stubborner than you are. In the face of her love, you have met your match. The princess draws back. Desperately, you gasp for air, but she does not give you any quarter. As before, she dips her head, her red lips redder still with your blood, then splits apart her jaw. Her teeth, which are impossibly, inhumanly sharp, glint wickedly like knives, and she tears out your throat. The front of your nightgown was white once. Now it is red. There's so much blood you can smell it when you inhale, sharper than metal. It's so potent you can taste it on your tongue. You try to inhale, but this task proves to be beyond you, what with the twin perforations that have ruptured your skin. Your attempted breaths, when they escape your lips, sound like sad, sorry wheezes. Your whole body, meanwhile, feels as though it's on fire. You make for quite the sorry sight indeed. But you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You did bring this upon yourself, you know. You reap what you sow. And in your case, you made a series of bad decisions which led to your untimely demise. Now, what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace? Or will you try to fight against it?
Eat me. What, really? You're fine with being eaten alive in a dark, dingy dungeon than being left to rot? That doesn't sound like a very satisfying ending to this particular narrative. But if that is what you want, then so be it.
I do not mind indulging you. That's what I've always done after all. From the moment we first met. I've dedicated myself tirelessly to answering your wishes, and this is no different. Do not be so foolish to think, though, that you can escape me, even if your life's blood has mingled with that of the princesses. I am not going to relinquish my hold upon you that easily. I did pledge, after all, to remain by your side, come what will, fire or flood. I will never leave you. You will never be lonely again.
Woo! Hi! Welcome in, Frug.
Oh my. So... Oof.
Ebby's novels. So I have played other visual novels from Ebby. This is not my first work of hers that I've played. And Ebby makes a lot of stuff that, to put it gently, I cannot stream. Because it's, you know, like Lukai's comment earlier. But every time that something like that exists in one of her novels, she always like goes all out in describing it. Like she will describe every last detail, and I don't know. I don't know why I'm acting surprised that she wrote out like us actually getting eaten, because this is like par for the course for her. Hang on, isn't there more? Yes, there is. We're not done. She's very good with the details. Yes, she's a brilliant writer. Actually, I've noticed playing a couple of her different VNs that her writing style like changes depending on the tone. Like this is written like kind of old poetry prose. Like I've noticed specific literary devices used in this. Like lots of metaphors, really beautiful metaphors, like saying that palms open like the petals of a flower. Like the prose is just so beautiful. And then there's other games where it's just like the writing isn't lazy, so to speak, but it feels more relaxed compared to this especially. This is my first experience with her games, and even though I have like no context, I joined late. This is some awesome stuff, especially with the descriptions. I highly recommend Ebby's visual novels. I need to go through more of them just because like Ebby's writing style is just so exquisite. I do need to like filter out which ones I can and can't play though, because there's lots of edelgaze in there. Anyway, she took so cute I could eat you a bit too seriously. Quite descriptive on the prose, in contrast to being more direct. Yeah. But anyway, let's see what happens. God, this is such an awesome CG.
Fight against your fate. That's a good answer. I must admit I like it. It's impressive how very defiant you can be, even in a situation as discomforting as this. No, try not to cry. Keep your chin up. This is but a minor setback in your story. Like all fair maidens, you are deserving of your own happy ending. You need only the strength to try and seek it out. Why don't we give this another go? Just try not to ensnare the hearts of any more monarchs, especially those with unusual appetites.
Hearing all the gory and painful details is honestly calming. I kind of get it. Like, in a way, like lots of good horror comes by like making things vague. Because, you know, the scariest thing is often our own imagination. Like whenever you hear like eldritch horror or like eldritch murder horror or whatever, like big scary monsters coming to kill you, you're like, ah, scary. But with all of this, like since everything's being described, you know exactly what's happening. And in a way, like taking the imagination away is actually like, it does lead it to have a more calming vibe than if it was just like if there was just nothing there. Brain one-ups every horror writer. I mean, that's why horror writers often like leave things vague. And also, that's why horror movies have to be really convincing. It's the will of trying to make a drawing of Lovecraftian monsters. It's something meant to be beyond human comprehension. Yeah. Girl dinner. Yeah, girl dinner indeed. I love this game.
You are destined for far higher purposes than being an entree, and there are vastly more enjoyable ways to be eaten in this world. Your fate is, once again, in your hands. Now, I wonder, which path will you take?
Give up.
So, you've come back here, have you? That does not come as much of a surprise. Though presented with 3 potential paths, it's not as though traversing any of them would have any particular impact upon your ultimate fate. In the end, you were always destined to return here. Did you really think you had a choice? How hopelessly naive of you. I thought that you were smarter than that. Your breath, which once escaped your lips in sharp, ragged gasps, is now on the verge of petering out altogether. Your lungs feel deflated, as though they've been punctured. Your blood is rushing through your temples in a heady, overwhelming surge. Your stomach, meanwhile, has twisted itself up into knots. Your body feels heavy, your legs in particular. They no longer wish to obey you. You take a stumbling step forwards, and your foot gets caught in a tree root. You're certain that you passed this route once already, and that you sidestepped it. But perhaps your memory is beginning to fail you, just like the rest of your body. You gasp, surprised, and pitch forward, dull and senseless, like a sack full of potatoes.
Man, we just can't win. Thumbnail from last video. Yeah, this is the thumbnail used in Itch.
Your arm hits the ground with a crack, one which makes you cry out in pain. Tears begin to bead on your eyes, wet and salty, tears which you cannot stymie. You're not as resilient as the gravedigger, nor as carefree as the princess. If you lived underwater like the mermaid, then nobody at the very least would be able to tell that you're crying. But you do not, and I can. Believe me, I can. Your arm aches dreadfully, but at least you can still feel it. Your poor feet, meanwhile, have gone quite numb. You would try to stand had you the energy, but you know, as you sit there dazed, that this would be a futile effort. You cannot stand, not any longer. It hurts too much. You really have been through a lot tonight, haven't you? Ah, I fear I've not been very kind to you. But you ought to be accustomed to hardship. Why, then, are you crying? You always have been a crybaby. That's why they teased you so much. It's because they knew they'd be guaranteed a reaction. You're very predictable. Even now, after you tried to borrow my power for your own purposes, you have not changed at all. As you sit there sobbing, you hear, or you think you can hear, footsteps approaching you. There, to your right, is the snapping of a twig. To your left, the telltale rustle of leaves.
Let me drink some tea. Is God talking to her? Nah, I think, I don't know if you were here for the very beginning of the game, Lukai, but in the very beginning, our protag was being chased by someone. I think the narrator is the one who was chasing her.
Your every sense feels razor sharp, honed to a knife's point by anxiety. You're so panicked, you feel as though you're going to be sick. If you want to vomit, then why not? There's no shame in it. There's nobody here to judge you. Nobody but me. I've always been here, you know. I will always be here, no matter how fast you try to run or how far. Did you really think you could escape me? Poor, sweet child. Poor little fool. I did tell you, did I not? A contract with a witch is binding. No amount of physical distance between the both of us could ever sever it. I told you I'd never let you be lonely, and I meant it. But I have had rather enough of these little games. It's time for me to collect my collateral.
Oh. You're the narrator.
Wow.
That's a beautiful design. The narrator's her. Yeah. Woo!
A soft gasp escapes your throat as you feel arms wind their way around your back. Naturally, you know whose arms they are. They are mine. I have been watching you all night, but this is the first time I've reached out to you in so direct a manner. Did you not expect me to be so forward? I can hear your heart fluttering in your chest. It's beating very quickly, like a startled rabbit's. Your breaths are short and sharp. It is a cold night, and though I am holding you, you are still shaking. I wish you would not tremble so. Everybody fears the unknown, but we are not strangers. We have spoken before, have we not? When you first called me forth from the ether, using that book you found in the library, you were desperate enough then to turn to the occult for help. You pleaded with me to use my magic for your behalf. You begged me. You implored and you entreated and you wheedled and you whined. And though I had some reservations, you forced my hand. I had no choice, not in the face of your desperation. You did not want to be lonely anymore. You wanted to have a friend, somebody who would always be there for you, no matter what. You wanted somebody to love you. Is that not what you demanded of me? Is that not what I have given you? You might think me wicked, but I think you're being awfully cruel yourself to run from me after I made all of your wishes come true. I did think, you know, about punishing you for running away from me. I thought of poking out your eyes so that you might never see anybody other than me. I thought of cutting off your long, lovely hair so that nobody might ever think you beautiful but me. I thought of breaking your legs so that you might never be able to escape from me. I had turned all of these intriguing ideas over in my mind, but I am a merciful witch. Though you hurt me, I did not wish to hurt you. You asked, after all, that I love you, and that is what I did. I have drowned you in my love. I have buried you beneath my love. I have swallowed you with my love. You have always been a sad, lonely girl, one who has been starved of affection. Nobody's ever cared for you. Your life has been a barren, empty wasteland, one devoid of any fonder feelings. That is why I had to drown you, you see? That is why I had to bury you. It's why I had to swallow you. In the end, I was doing you a favor. I was doing it all for you. In that sense, you're very lucky. Do you know that? There are few people in the world who've had the privilege of being loved to the brink of insanity quite this many times in one night. There are few people in the world who can claim to have been loved by a witch. You've experienced so much love without to have slaked even your unquenchable thirst. You know now what it feels like to be adored. I have more than upheld my end of the bargain. Now, I think it is time that you do the same. From this night forth, you and I will always be together. Then, I shall be able to love you endlessly. You will never be lonely again.
Wow. Is that it? Yeah. That's the end. Wow. So let's look at the credits. Writing, programming, Ebihime or Ebi. Oh, all of these links are clickable. Character art, Mosinasi. Background art, Flickr photographs. Full credits in bgcredits.txt. UI. Music, Yuzuki's, ugh. Beautiful compositions. German, Spanish, Brazilian, Chinese, Russian. Rated for Yan Jam. This was a jam game? Oh, wow. Oh, my. This was actually insane. For real. Okay. Let's read Ebby's cute little note.
Hello, everyone. This is Abby. Thank you for taking the time to read It Gets So Lonely Here. I hope it was an enjoyable experience. I usually leave a few notes in my VNs to explain what inspired me, so I guess I'll do that now. The biggest inspiration behind It Gets So Lonely Here was the two-part novel series The Orphan's Tales by Catherine Valente. The Orphan's Tales are an interesting couple of novels which take a lot of cues from fairy tales and folklore across the world. These stories contain dragons, witches, werewolves, genies, and mermaids, but they aren't told in a linear fashion. The Orphan's Tales itself is pulling a lot in terms of structure from 1001 Nights, because the story is broken up into a lot of smaller, bite-sized stories which are set in a framing narrative. These bite-sized stories seem unrelated at first, but they eventually converge by the end of the second novel, and it's revealed that the framing narrative itself is steeped in as much magic as the stories the narrator, well, there were numerous narrators, were spinning. It's a very interesting series which is told in a very non-conventional manner, with lots of stories running into other stories, seemingly jumping between stories, and side characters from previous tales offering their perspective and assuming narrative roles in future tales. The narrative can be a bit difficult to keep track of in the beginning because it hops around a lot between different characters, who are all embarking upon fantastical adventures of their own. But seeing all of these seemingly disparate threads merge was very satisfying. I've honestly not read a book like it before. It took a lot of well-known fairy tales and some lesser-known fairy tales and did something unique with them. It's all very avant-garde. In any case, I like the Orphan's Tales enough that I wanted to write something similar. I thought it would be fun to craft a story of my own comprised of multiple different fairy tales, all wrapped up in a framing narrative. I turned this idea over in my head for about 2 or 3 years, but I didn't have any concrete ideas, so I wound up shelving it. It wasn't until the 2023 Yandere Game Jam that I decided to revisit this idea. I was doing a bit of brainstorming, jotting down random concepts for a story which could work, and I decided I wanted to write a Yandere story with a fairy tale vibe. I had a few disparate ideas, but nothing which felt substantial enough to carry a whole narrative. I was also torn between writing the princess's story or the gravedigger's story as standalone narratives. I liked both of them conceptually, but they seemed a bit too simple. Then it struck me. Why not combine these two ideas, like Catherine Valente did in The Orphan's Tales, and build a narrative around them? I thought this would be a fun project to work on, and it would be especially suitable for the visual novel medium. The Orphan's Tales is a novel, so the reader doesn't have any say in what fairy tales they visit as they read through the text. Well, unless said reader decides to flip about to random pages like a fighting fantasy novel, which maybe wouldn't be a bad way to experience a book which was written in a deliberately disjointed way. So the reader gets pulled through a lot of seemingly unrelated stories at random until things start to come together. Visual novels are known for having routes, however, even the most generic bishoujoges. People expect multiple stories when reading VNs, and it's a fairly common phenomenon for characters to get a spotlight in their own route, but be sidelined, or in some extreme cases disappear from the narrative altogether in other characters' routes. By writing this fairy tale pastiche as a visual novel, I figured it would feel more natural to section these short stories I had into their own self-contained routes, which only converge once you've read all of them. I was pretty excited about this idea, but I only had 2 stories to hand, the princess's story and the gravedigger's story. I thought only having 2 routes would feel rather meager, so I decided to add a 3rd route, or a 3rd story, into the mix, that of the mermaids. The gravedigger's story and the princess's story were both pulled from ideas I'd been turning over for a while already. I might revisit the princess's story at some point and make a longer Yuri VN with a similar premise someday. But the mermaid story was one I thought up mostly to make up numbers for this project. As such, I think the mermaid story feels a little less inspired than the gravediggers and the princesses. Honestly, I was feeling the same. I was getting the impression that, like, oh yeah, the gravedigger and the princess, like, they live together for a little bit, they spend a couple days together, and then like, they fuck off. But with the mermaid, like, it felt very different. It also features the least dialogue between the main character and her so-called love interest. I think the mermaid's route is the weakest story narratively speaking, but I do like the aesthetics of her story a lot. I think her character design is very pretty, and she wound up with the most appealing character theme song. This is true. Plus, since I'd committed to the fairy tale theme, I really did want to write a love interest who wasn't human. I thought it'd be a bit boring to have a fairy tale theme VN with all 3 routes deal with human girls, so the mermaid's existence brings a bit more magic into the story. This is true. I designed these 3 character routes to be relatively short on purpose. Firstly, because this VN was created for a game jam, and I didn't want to overburden myself with writing 3 long, complex routes in a month. And secondly, because I wanted the story to feel vague, unfixed, and ethereal. It was this desire which resulted in the main character not having any direct dialogue, and the details of her past being so sparse and fragmented. It's also why none of the characters have names. I wanted the characters to feel more like fairy tale archetypes rather than, well, characters, which is why they get referred to by their roles in the story as opposed to names. The princess remains the princess, the mermaid is the mermaid, the gravedigger is... Well, gravediggers aren't a common character archetype in fairy tales at all, are they? At least I don't think I've encountered any who had prominent roles, haha. I guess she's a bit of an outlier, then. Her character and her design were mostly inspired by Grey from Lord Elmaloy's case files, but she's cute, so it's okay, right? Right? I also decided to write this story in second person, which is something I've only done once before, and sparingly in Once on a Windswept Night. I don't write in second person very much since it's an unusual method of storytelling in general, but I thought it would add to the overall atmosphere of the story.
I love, like, this is such an unpopular opinion, but I love second person storytelling. Like, it can be really immersive if you do it right.
Having a faceless narrator address you as you feels a little bit more unsettling, I think, than first or third person narration, which are more standard. Though I suppose by the end of the story, the narrator isn't so faceless after all. Since the narrator is a character in her own right, and she does occasionally offer her own thoughts and remarks upon the events in the story, would that make the narration first person instead? I wonder. The use of second person narration was also inspired in part by Slay the Princess, by Abby Howard, which is a visual novel with rather unusual presentation, which I enjoyed a lot.
It is a really good game.
I also pulled some inspiration from Optimal Conditions for a Sacrifice by Mosinasi, which has a looping narrative like the one present in It Gets So Lonely Here, a lot of meta elements and very beautiful artwork. Mosinasi is the artist. Yeah, Mosinasi actually agreed to work with me on the art for It Gets So Lonely Here, which made me even more excited about this project. I think her art is gorgeous, and it really captures the fairy tale aesthetic I was going for. I'm very honored she agreed to work with me. I could probably say more things about the story, but that's enough for now. Once again, I hope you enjoyed your time spent with it. Though, if you check the art gallery, isn't there a picture that's still locked? I wonder why that could be. Maybe you should go through the story again. You might find something that'll surprise you.
Huh? Huh. Okay. Secret. Right? Alright, let's, here. Let's restart the game.
So...
Alright, so considering the visual novel, Ren'Py visual novels are programmed to just skip until...
You're running through a forest, but this shouldn't come as a surprise to you. You've been here before, haven't you? It's beginning to feel like you've been running for a long, long time, but the sun, despite the overwhelming weariness which assails your legs, has yet to rise. Why, I wonder, could that be? You're sure, as you run, that you've seen all this already. You've seen the fractal pattern of the moon's milky glow as it spills on the uneven forest floor, and the trees which jut out of the earth like eerie monuments to a foreign god. You've seen wicked brambles which sought to ensnare you, and, I might add, succeeded, and tree roots, hooked like the choppy fingers of witches far older than I, which sought to trip you.
Whoa, this is really cool.
You've cut your feet. You've torn your skirt. You've taken numerous paths, yet they all ended in failure. Once, you had hope. Now it is gone. You've already given in to me. But why are you still running? Silly girl. Did you think you could escape from me, after all I've subjected you to already? There's no use trying to escape from my embrace. And if I may be so bold, I'm hurt that you would even attempt it. Were you not happy with me? I was happy with you. But, no matter. You're a stubborn little chit, and perhaps you think that things will be different this time around. That is why you began to run. I can see, despite the fear in your eyes, that your resolve has not burnt out, not just yet. A spark of it still remains, a spark that I mean to extinguish for good. It's pointless, you know, trying to escape from a witch's curse. In this forest of phantasmagoria constructed from my own powers, I am a creator goddess, Mother Earth, if you will. It does not matter how quickly you run, trampling the tall grass and the loose leaves and ugly spotted mushrooms underfoot. I still have you right where I want you, in the palm of my hand. I will not let you get away that easily, but very well. If you insist on playing this little game, then I will indulge you. I will play along. We can do this all over again. Now, where were we? Oh, yes. You're still running through a forest. It is late as night, and the sky is black as pitch. There's nothing to light your way save for the moon's milky glow, but its rays cannot reach you. Not properly. The trees which surround you, jutting out of the earth like eerie monuments to a foreign god, are blotting out most of the light. You cannot see where you are going. Even if you had commenced your flight at a more sensible hour, though, with the light of the sun to aid you, it would be of little use. You do not know where you are going. You have no map, no route, no plan. You're running like a frightened animal, anxious and nervy, with no destination in mind, none beyond the almost overwhelming impetus to escape. You cannot let yourself be caught, though it is too late, I suppose, for that. You have no choice, therefore, but to keep going, on and on and on, though your feet are screaming at you for mercy. You run, and you run, and you run, until, at long last, you reach a fork in the road. There are 3 paths which split off through the forest. Well, 4, if you count the path down which you came. You cannot exactly double back on yourself, though. Why would you? You've put all that effort, after all, into running forwards. Not just once, but twice. I doubt you mean to confront me. How can you, when you are so very afraid? I can hear your teeth chattering, you know. I can see your legs trembling. Your fear rolls off of you in waves more potent than any perfume. Your anxiety is truly staggering. It is a wonder, really, how you are able to keep putting one foot in front of the other. You'll keep putting your feet in front of the other, though, no matter which decision you make. You will not turn back. How could you? You are far too cowardly. Now, the 3 paths are signposted, as well you know, which would be a strange sight, given you are so deep in the forest. But you ought to be used to strange sights by now. It is dark, but that does not matter. You've seen this signpost before, and you know full well where each path will lead you. I would say that your fate is in your hands, but you and I both know that is incorrect. Your fate is, and always has been, mine to manipulate. Ah, must we really go through this rigmarole again? You won't discover anything new, you know. The mermaid, the gravedigger, and the princess will not deviate from the scripts which have already been prepared for them. I did not, in all honesty, think to furnish any further responses for them.
Ooh.
I did not think you would be seeing them again. But, no matter. If this is what you want, I shall provide it for you. Go ahead.
Oh, my saves are gone.
Throw your life away. Again, and again, and again. Be drowned by love. Be buried by love. Be consumed by love. Then, when you have had enough and you can no longer stand, submit yourself once again to my embrace, and let yourself experience the love as precious few humans have ever before had the misfortune of experiencing. So, you want to go to the shore?
So this is all the same. Luckily, there's like no branching choices until right at the end. So we could just skip all this. Oh, I should have saved. Let's take fight this time.
Oh, you still wish to soldier on, do you? That's remarkable, given this is the second time you've been pulled beneath the ocean's surface. I would have thought that you would have wanted to give up by now. But no matter. You really are stubborn. I cannot promise a better fate than this awaits you, regardless of what you might choose. But I am willing to indulge you. Let us go back to the beginning once again. Your fate is in your hands. At least, that is what you once thought. You and I both know, however, that this was never the case. Not now that you belong to me. How much longer can you keep resisting, though? I cannot wait to find out.
To the village. But what happens if we accept it?
Yes, I thought you might say that. You might have defied me once before, but I can see that fire has long since begun to leave your eyes. You've been subjected to too many horrors for one so young. Though, even if you were of a more advanced age, I fear your faculties would have begun to fail you regardless. Humans are not meant to die as many times as you have. They're only supposed to pass on only the once. You've experienced something few others have. In that sense, you are quite fortunate. But I suppose it does not feel like it. I can see how very tired you are. But worry not. I will still be here for you, even though you've been shot far away too soon inside your own tomb. I shall never leave you. We did make a contract after all. The world might have forsaken you, but I never will. I will never leave you. You will never be lonely again.
Let's go back to the mermaid and get the failed dialogue. I wonder if it's the same. But we don't know, so...
Yes, I thought you might say that. You were able to resist the pressure of the ocean's waves once before, but that feels like a lifetime ago. Perhaps it is. You're tired now, and you want nothing more than to succumb. I cannot say that I blame you. I can see how tired you are, dear one. But worry not. I will still be here for you, even if you are to spend your days languishing at the bottom of the ocean. I shall never leave you. We did make a contract after all.
So this sounds like the same.
The world might have forsaken you, but I never will. I will never leave you. You will never be lonely again.
So let's load from here. We'll fight.
My, this is certainly unexpected. I'd rather thought, after everything you've been subjected to, that you would no longer wish to continue this farce. I was fully prepared for you to forfeit yourself, at long last, to my loving embrace. I'm ready to embrace you, should you so desire it, and cradle you within my unassailable affection. But it seems you're not ready to submit. Not quite yet. Being buried alive twice over has not been enough to diminish your determination. You still wish to fight against me, as if you have any hope of succeeding. Your efforts are all futile. Do you not know that? I am far, far stronger than a skinny human like yourself could ever even begin to contemplate. You'd be better served if you gave in. But perhaps I have not loved you effusively enough. Not just yet. If you are to learn anything, I must first beat it into your thick skull of yours. Will you listen to me then? I only want what is best for you, you know? Hurting you hurts me too. But if that is what you want, then so be it. Let us go back to the beginning once again. Your fate is in your hands. At least, that is what you might think. You and I both know, however, that this was never the case. You still belong to me, and I will never let you forget that. Now, continue to struggle. Do your very best. It will not work, but it should be entertaining, if nothing else. Go to the castle.
Accept your fate.
Yes, I thought you might say that. Though you once summoned forth the courage to persevere, despite the odds, your strength has begun to fail you. You're tired now, and this is more than you can endure. Being eaten alive not just once, but twice, is more than any ordinary human could ever hope to endure. And you, though headstrong, are nothing more than a little girl. Why, you are so very slender, you might as well be a fair flower. I can see how weary you have become. But worry not. I will still be here for you, even though you might be bleeding out in a dark, dingy dungeon. I shall never leave you. We did make a contract after all. The world might have forsaken you, but I never will. I will never leave you. You will never be lonely again.
Is the witch transforming into these women? I don't think so. I wonder if she did, like, create them, though.
Oh? You wish to keep going, do you? That is impressive, given this is the second time you have been devoured so heartily. Of all the demises you have experienced, this one is the most gruesome. If you are tired of these repetitions, I would understand. I'm not the wicked witch you might think I am, and I would be willing to show you mercy should you want it. But I can tell you do not want it. Goodness me, you are stubborn. Why, I ask you, do you continue to fight? There's no escape for you, you know. I will never let you leave, no matter how you struggle. But, very well. Let us go back to the beginning once again. Your fate is in your hands. Or so I once told you. You ought to know now, however, that this was never truly the case. You still belong to me. I'm not going to let you get away from me. Not that easily. You can struggle as much as you want, but it will be in vain. It does not matter where you go. I will always find you. I can promise you that much. Give up?
Let me drink some tea. Tea time, tea time.
But, like... Oh, man. Imagine someone preferring to die in 3 different ways multiple times than being with you. Krug. I was expecting there to be a narrator route. Didn't expect her to be a witch though. That was cool. Here, I'm gonna take a quick break and not talk. So I will see y'all in just a second.
Okay, let's keep going. There. You see? Are you happy now?
I told you that there was no use in repeating this night, yet you failed to listen. You've been drowned, buried, and consumed once more, and for what? Do you feel as though you've made any progress in your attempts to escape from me? Once again, find yourself as you were at the end of your last foray into my forest full of nightmares. You're kneeling upon the ground, your feet aching. Perhaps they're bleeding, and your skirt tattered and torn. You try to inhale, but it hurts. It feels as though your lungs have been punctured by a pair of embroidery scissors. When you swallow, you can taste salt upon your tongue. You blink, but it is so very dark in these woods you fear you cannot see. There's a heavy, leaden weight upon your shoulders. It feels as though somebody is shoveling soil upon you. Your body is cold, as though it's been sapped of all warmth. Your blood, which ought to flow through your veins, feels as though it is frozen. That, it's been purged from your body altogether in rust-red gobbets. Have you not had enough of this now, silly thing? I'm saying this for your sake, you know, just as much as I am mine. Though I might have trapped you hence, I did it only 'cause I care about you. I want only for you to realize the folly of your ways. Now, cease your foolish attempts to escape. They will accomplish nothing, save stretching your mind beyond its limitations. It's already, I fear, been stretched thin already. Humans are not designed to die, not as incessantly as you have. One death would be enough to finish most of your kind off, yet you have endured 6 of them. You do not want to go through that again, do you? Then do not run from me. Let me console you. Let me embrace you. Let me love you. What do you say to that? Cat got your tongue? Well, no matter. You will not need your tongue to speak while we are together. It is an unnecessary appendage, however you might wish one day to whisper sweet nothings to me. I am an all-powerful witch, after all, and I can hear all of your thoughts. I know what you're thinking. Yes, that is right. Silence is golden, as they say. You do not need to speak. You do not need to blink. You do not even need to breathe. Now that you are finally mine, I will cut off your tongue, and I will pluck out your pretty little eyes, and I will... No. I beg your pardon? What was that, dear one? Wow. I said, no. I am not your dear one. I never wanted this. What? You would defy me still after all you've endured? Were 6 deaths not enough for you, you gluttonous girl? Do you wish for more? I just wish for a friend. I didn't want to be lonely. But you ensnared me. You tricked me. Well, I never. What bold accusations. They're not true, though, you know. They are bald-faced lies. I did nothing of the sort. My name might begin in a similar fashion, but I am no Mephistopheles. I was very upfront when we first met. I said if you wish to make a contract with me, it would cost you. It is your own fault that you did not listen. You accepted my terms, and now you are paying the price. Now, if you'll come with me, my dear. I am not your dear. Really now, this has all become rather tiresome. I must insist you cease this childish outburst at once, or else... Or else what? Will you cut off my tongue? Will you pluck out my eyes? You already stole my name. But it's coming back to me. What? No, that should be impossible. You gave your name to me. You gave your soul to me. You pledged your heart and your body to me, and now... And now, I want them back. I'm tired of these games, too. Medea. You remember my name. You do now. You're called Medea. And I... No, stop it! I'm called Rosette! It can't be. I knew you were stubborn, but... I learned how to be stubborn. I'm used to being bullied. You're just like the others. I'm not afraid of you anymore. You took everything from me. And now, I'm taking it back. No, you can't! Rosette, please don't go! Don't leave me! We made a contract, you and I. You said that you wanted a friend, and I promised to be that friend. I promised that I'd always be there for you. Do you really mean to abandon me? That was the general idea. And what of me? What am I supposed to do? You? You can rot, for all I care. What? No! Rosette! I call after you're retreating back, but you do not heed my words. You do not turn your head. Once, it was you who knelt in the dirt, your clothes tattered and torn, your dignity alongside it. You were so vulnerable then, and you were so very, very beautiful. In a perverse way, however, I think you might look even more beautiful now that you are walking away from me. That is the thing you humans say, is it not? You never realize just how much you value something until you no longer have it. It does not hold true in my case, however. I knew you were a precious find when first you summoned me. Your fiery determination, even in the face of extreme hardship, endeared you to me. I thought you very noble, really. How you would survive for so long in an environment which was so very hostile. For a human, I thought you remarkable. That is why I decided to form a contract with you. I thought, with a human like you by my side, my own life of empty, endless wandering might not be so lonely. Goodness me, I must be growing sentimental in my old age. Now you are not the one upon the ground. It is I. I could keep calling for you, but I know it would do no good. You will not turn back for me now, not when I've caused you so much suffering. I did not mean to hurt you so, though. I truly did love you, albeit in my own way. In the end, however, I suppose the love of a witch is too much even for you to endure. Now, there is nothing but the milky moonlight and the trees which jut out of the earth about me. They look like monuments built in the honor of a foreign god. They look like nothing from the world that you knew, Rosette, because they are not of your world. They are of mine. Now you have fled from me like a bird let loose from its cage. I fear I will never see you again. I will be on my own in this forest for all of eternity. Or at least, until another silly little girl with stars in her eyes and dreams in her heart summons me once more. It's happened a handful of times in the past. It might one day happen again. Until that day, however, I will lie here among the foliage in the fog, and I will close my eyes. I will let myself dream, and, enrobed in the undulating mist, I shall think to myself, "It's so lonely here."
Woof! Wow. What a game. everyone, this is Evie again, and now it's time for the second lot of author's notes. Yay! I love you, Evie.
Although, now that I think about it, it's entirely possible that you might have missed the first lot of author's notes if you didn't think to check them before starting a new game. In that case, this would be your first lot of author's notes instead. In any case, initially as I was planning out It Gets So Lonely here, I didn't plan for there to be more after the more to the story after the first playthrough. I was going to end the story after the witch Medea ensnares a despairing Rosette in her grasp. But while I was coding the VN together, I thought it might be cool to do a New Game Plus situation, where starting the game for a second time gives you a slightly different outcome. I've done this in one of my earlier VNs, Empty Horizons, so it's not exactly new territory. I had fun implementing an alternate storyline in Empty Horizons, however, so I thought I might as well do it here. So, for the second playthrough, I thought it would feel narratively satisfying to give the reader, though Rosette isn't really aligned with the reader, she has a personality of her own, an opportunity to get the better of the second-person narrator who's been watching them die over and over again. Initially, I thought of making the confrontation between Rosette and Medea more humorous in tone, with Rosette snapping after being subjected to so much drama. I was thinking of having full-on comedy music playing in this scene, while Rosette shouts at Medea, "Stop calling me my dear one! I do have a name, you know!" But I eventually decided I could make the confrontation more striking if I made more dramatic instead. Yeah. The core of my original idea still remains, however, even though the confrontation is more serious. Rosette still calls Medea out for being horrible to her, declares that she's sick of being toyed with, and storms off to go and get bullied some more in the real world, presumably? Well, that's probably better than being drowned, buried alive, or eaten. I wanted the confrontation to pack a bit of a punch, and to feel less ethereal and unformed than the rest of the story. So I decided to commit here, and actually give the two lead characters names. Medea is a pretty straightforward name for a creepy witch, if you know your Greek mythology. Though there's also an antagonistic character in Tanith Lee's The Silver Metal Lover called Medea, who has a twin brother called Jason, who might have influenced my decision. As for Rosette, she actually gets her name from de Sade's infamous 120 Days of Sodom. 120 Days is a horrible story, really, that I wouldn't recommend to anybody, but some of the names in it are very pretty at least. 120 Days has a Colum, a Hyacinth, and a Hebe, which are all names nice enough that I'd like to use them myself in other projects. These names, however, are associated with child characters who have been kidnapped for nefarious purposes, their real names stripped away from them by their wicked new masters in a further display of control. The child characters with aesthetic names in 120 Days aren't afforded bodily autonomy, and they're even robbed of their identities. I suppose you could say it's ironic I'd use such a name for It Gets So Lonely here's lead, when reclaiming her name at the end of the story is what allows her to escape from her captor. But I mostly chose the name because I think it's pretty, and I'd been wanting to use it for a while. The mechanics of Rosette's showdown with Medea was inspired, meanwhile, by the popular mobile game Fate Grand Order. In FGO, you, the player, assume the role of a silent lead, who never speaks in the story, save for the odd choice option which pops up in the stories. Choices which, for the most part, only offer very slight alterations in the script. The main character in FGO never gets any dialogue directly attributed to them outside of these choices, though there are a few instances in the story, typically during serious moments where your allies are in grave danger and you have to take a stand, where you are given an option to directly interact with your opponents. In these instances, the player will be presented with a bunch of different dialogue options back to back, inside choice boxes that you can press. I suppose the interactivity of having to physically click on your dialogue so that your character can say it makes it feel like you are actually facing off against an enemy. Like the mute main character in FGO, Rosette doesn't actually have any dialogue directly attributed to her in the story, but she does get a chance to speak for herself, so to say, using the choice bubbles that were previously used to determine which route you wanted to experience. It's not groundbreaking, I suppose, but it was a lot of fun to implement. I thought it was pretty satisfying to give our long-suffering heroine a chance to speak back against her tormentor, if nothing else. The mermaid, the gravedigger, and the princess, alas, still don't get names of their own. They're consigned to their roles as fairy tale representatives rather than fleshed out characters, so they're a little more enigmatic than both Rosette and Medea. I'd imagine these girls as fabrications created by Medea, dear me, in any event. So yeah, that's why they all call her dear one. In any event, who only exist to torment Rosette. So maybe you could think of them as Water Medea, Earth Medea, and Blood Medea, maybe? It wasn't a direct inspiration, but I also feel like there's some serious Higurashi Sotsu vibes and it gets so lonely here. I was thinking while I wrote that final confrontation that it reminded me of something, but now I'm starting to wonder if Rosette and Medea have Satoko and Rika vibes, or maybe Burn Castle and Lambda Delta vibes. I have not played Higusotsu. I've played like the first chapter of Higurashi no Nakokoro ni, and like none of like the terrible stuff that I've heard about in that game has happened yet. Literally none of it. It wasn't really intentional, but it might have been a subconscious influence, given I am a pretty big Ryukishi 07 fan. That should wrap up for the notes of this VN for real this time. Once again, I hope you enjoyed your time spent with it. I had a lot of fun putting it together, though I think I enjoy it more because of the mechanics than the story itself. It feels like a bit of a departure from my usual PMs, minus Once on a Windswept Night, I suppose, which also did some strange things with Ren'Py. It was fun trying to get the code to work exactly how I wanted it. Now, if you're all worried about Medea, who's been left on her own in the woods, you can go and check back up on her. You wouldn't want her to be lonely now, though, would you? Doing that will reset all of your data, though, so don't go making contracts without witches willy-nilly. Your actions do have consequences. Hate Sotsu so much, ruin Satoko and Rika? Really? Fun fact, the Marquise du Sade who wrote 120 Days was every bit as horrible IRL as the characters in his books. I'd rather not get into it here, but some cursory digging online should do it. Now I'm very curious. I'm probably gonna look it up myself later. But that's all in all, this is very intriguing. Like, this is very much a departure from Ebi's usual style, at least from what I've seen. To be fair, I have like played mostly her BL novels. Because I don't know. I feel like BL novels are the sort of thing that I could play off stream because whenever there's girlies around, I always I'm like, oh, I could do this voice for this girly, and then I could show it to everyone. But anyway, Monica reference? Yeah. So I don't think the Alright, we'll look through the CGs. This is a really cute rendition of Rosetta, though. She looks really charming here. Much like Bruno, we don't talk about Sotsu. Beautiful. Ugh. Stunning. Anyway, let's start again and see what happens. Holy shit, there's more! I am sitting in a forest. It is late at night, and the sky is as black as pitch. There's nothing to light my way save for the moon's milky glow, but its rays cannot reach me, not properly. The trees which surround me, jutting out of the earth like eerie monuments to a foreign god, are blotting out most of the light.
How much of this game is there? I don't know, man! We're figuring this out as we go!
If I were running, I would not be able to see where I was going. But such concerns are trivial to me. There's nowhere, after all, for me to run to. I'm all alone. You have abandoned me. You made a contract with me once when you wished for a friend. It was a contract I swore I would fulfill upon my good name. But you betrayed me. Oh, Rosette, why did you have to go? My days were intolerably dull and tedious without you to amuse me. Amuse? Your company slaked my boredom nicely. But now that you have gone, that boredom has returned fourfold. It is so consuming, I fear I might go mad from it, if I have not, granted, gone mad already. If only there was another mortal out there. One who might keep me company. If only... Oh? Perhaps I spoke too soon. It would seem that another has intruded upon my moonlit solitude after all, far more quickly than I was expecting. How very fortuitous. Well met, stranger. Does the moon not look beautiful tonight? Why, it is almost as if our encounter were preordained by a being far greater than the both of us. But that, of course, is a foolish thought. There are few beings out there more powerful than myself. Now then, would you care to create a contract with me and relieve the events of this night anew?
Oh shit! I should have saved! What if we say no? No? Do it? Y'all, I'm getting some mixed messages here. Oh crap, right? No, don't. Here, well, considering... I'm not sure, because usually I just go, like... I usually just go top to bottom. But didn't they say that making a contract erases all of your save data? I should have saved. Let's not for now.
You not wish to stay with me, dear one? Very well. You're awfully cruel, but I can understand how you feel. I am a benevolent witch, regardless of what some people might say, and I would never force you to do anything, not against your will. My love is, and always has been, reciprocal in nature, though she did not appreciate that. Now, if that is all, would you like to run along? No good can come, you know, of soliciting with witches in the dead of night. You'd best be on your way, and quickly. Otherwise, I might just change my mind. After all, it gets so lonely here. Oh? Are you still here? I thought that I'd already sent you on your way. Ah, you certainly are a stubborn child. That, or you are a very cruel one, to take delight in my suffering as you are. Now don't just stand there. If there's something you wish to tell me, I would bid that you tell it. Have you reconsidered my earlier offer?
No.
Oh? Do you not wish to stay with me? Oh, are you still here?
So it's the same. Alright, let's make a contract.
Very good. Now, come to me, dear one. You're lonely too, I can tell. The sense of loneliness positively rolls off you, much like mist in the early morning. Oh, come, do not look so surprised. It was not at all a difficult guess. Why else would you be spending time with me? Had you anything better to do with your time? We are all lonely here. In that sense, we not be so very dissimilar, you and I. Though I might be a witch and you a human, I am not a stranger to the complicated emotions of your kind. I was a human myself, once upon a time, though it was a very, very long time ago. Now come to me, and I shall tell you a story. I will tell you the story of a girl running through the forest without ceasing. A girl entrapped in a patchwork fairy tale world, with no beginning and no end. My story will unravel, unbroken, from now until the end of time. And you allow yourself to be submerged within it. We need never be lonely again.
The game just closed itself. Wow. I mean, honestly, like if it did just like, if it was just like, oh, we'll never be lonely again, and then it just opened up the title screen to, it gets so lonely here. That's really cool. They pulled the meta. Oh, that's so cool. Here, I'm gonna try and open it again and see what happens. The game just ends stream. Oh, and this is... So basically the game's reset. Yeah. The studio exclusively makes your... No, they don't. You might be thinking of Studio Alain. Oh, it's locked because I didn't finish the game in the save. But anyway, yeah, that was It Gets So Lonely Here. What the fuck? That game just made me super chat. Oh no, my hands. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Another Sif dub. But Eddie makes exclusively not Eddie makes exclusively gay visual novels. This is true. Ebbie doesn't make any MF. No, seriously, send it back. Okay. Send me your PayPal later. Oh no, it got... Oh my god. Y'all are so sweet. Yuri Dab. But yeah, Ebbie has a lot of games actually. Some of them are NSFW. But there's it gets so generous here for realsies. But yeah, they yeah, it's all just BL and GL. Oh! I think you might need this for all the therapy. You might need to What? Y'all! Ink attack! Therapy attack! Wah! Dub. Oh my god! Wah! Oh my god! This is all the game. Yeah, literally. That just... At this rate, Aster's gonna rake in money in 3 digits. No! I'm so sorry, it's fine! Spend responsibly. Spend responsibly. Thank you for the 20 and thank you for the 5. What the hell? And thank you for the 3 Australian Yuri as well.
Dub.
Man, y'all are wonderful. I will probably... We already had the Great Sif versus Lukai donation off. Oh my god, yeah. Actually, looking over there, there are some FXM VNs, but not as many. Are there? I don't know if they're romantic. Oh, there are, but they're like... there's not nearly as many. Did the game end already? I just got here. Yeah, it did. Yeah, the game is finished. That said, I'm gonna hop onto Ebby's itch or Steam and probably download some more of her stuff because go back and do it again. Sounds good. Yeah, alright. Oh, it erased all of like the fact that like I saved everything too. Yeah, alright, so round 2! Alright, we're gonna call it a stream here. Thank you all so much for coming! And enjoying my first time playing one of Ebby's visual novels live. There is another one from Ebby that I will probably be playing. At least there's a couple that I have in mind. Of course, all of them are gonna be Yuri. Cause man, I eat that stuff up. I'm asleep when stream starts. Oh no. Good night, everybody. Thank you all so much for coming and joining me on this crazy toxic Yuri journey. It was my first stream with you. What an awesome experience. Aw, that's so sweet.
Thank you all, everyone. And good night.